Hi there, welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel under Nairobi Review. My name is Gerald Kibero. We're having our political conversations simple, truthful and unbiased with Herman Manyora. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good.
We're having a conversation from your sector too. I'm talking about the 2023 plan, what Ruto should focus on this year. It's only January, I understand they're in a retreat together with some leaders in the executive, also his advisors. And the big conversation now, the minority, leader of minority in the National Assembly, Opiyo Wandayi, says they are ready to take Kenyans back to Kamukunji if Ruto does not reinstate the subsidy that was put in place by the previous administration after COVID on high schools. This is 8,500 shillings that was to be paid per student, and now it seems like when students go back to school, you don't know what head teachers will tell them to pay. You're coming from this sector, and Ruto is someone who says subsidies was what messed us up in the previous election. What do you make of Opiyo Wandayi's sentiments on this, and Ruto is deciding to do away with subsidies?
I also don't support subsidies so much. I'm with Ruto on that. But again, you see, the government in power has its own policies. If the policy of this government is zero subsidy on education and zero subsidy on food and everything, that's the government's decision. You can make noise from the other corner, from the opposition benches.
Yeah.
But the better thing is for you to become government and introduce your subsidies. Because look here.
You're not government.
Look here. Raila offered Kenyans free education from pre-unit through grade 1 all the way to university. But they chose to elect Ruto. If we go by the figures. So Opiyo should try hard to win government, to form government next time. It's Ruto who told Kenyans, I'm not going to give you free education. Raila told them, I'll give you free education all the way to university. But 7 million of them thought otherwise and voted for Ruto. So that's how politics works.
The majority have their way.
Have their way.
You guys have your say.
You can make a little noise from some corner somewhere. But it's unfortunate.
If you're advising Ruto now, because we're still dealing with this harsh cost of living, and now parents, we call this in January, parents are taking their kids back to school, and this is going to mostly affect when you look at today's scholars who are almost paying nothing, just lunch fees and some tuition fees, maybe even exam fees. What would you advise Ruto, looking at how Kenyans are struggling? And yes, he says subsidies are taking us back. We're just going back in debt, and we're trying to save. We are actually a government which is trying to save money.
If you remove, it's called free day school. You know, government pays money for children to be in school. It used to be 7,000. I think now it's about 10,000. 10,000, 12,000. I can't remember the figures.
Yeah.
If you remove that as a matter of policy, then you'll have to reckon with something else. First of all, the government is so proud of 100% transition to secondary school. Then you quickly compromise that. One of the reasons why government, Matiang'i was forceful and Magoha, no child should fail to report to Form 1. The argument was it is free.
Yeah.
Now it's not free. So the 100% transition will drop to 40%, 50%, 60%. The government must be prepared. That's why I'm saying this government is like groping in the dark. They don't seem to understand running government, but we understand. They are young, they are learning, they will learn. If you touch that, ask any chairman of our school, secondary school, I've been one. Ask any principal of our school, especially these small schools. The so-called, we used to call them Harambe schools, now we call them CDF schools. These ones that are dotted all over the country, which then admit over 70, 80% of the children. If you remove that free education there, free day school, they will all collapse.
But
so government doesn't seem to. I want to repeat this thing because I'm hoping one day President William Ruto will hear my voice. Look for advisors. People will tell you everything you touch on has implications. If you want day schools to collapse in this country, touch. I have been a chairman of our school, and anytime you send away children, even for 500 shillings, half of the school disappears. You go again and look for them. That is a reality. Let the minister in charge of education ask any principal of these small schools. You ask students for 1,000, and for a whole week you only have 10 children out of the 150 you have. So ask them to pay this money, and all those schools will close down. There will be nobody there.
If you are in government now, because there's also another conversation on higher education loans.
Same thing with higher education.
Ruto
But before we go to higher education, let me tell you my take. I want to agree with Raila Odinga. You need free education, free quality education. I just want to stop there and say it is possible. It's within our reach. We can manage it. You only need to stop the stealing, the theft, the corruption, and you have enough money to give free quality education from the lowest level to highest level. Continue.
But before you say that, how achievable is it? Because if subsidies is an issue, is free education possible? If just funding, if just
I have told you the money people steal in this country is more than enough to give people free health care, free hospitali unaingia na kutoka, free education, quality, not just free, but quality. Many people. Let me tell you, as I speak today with you here, how many public servants are on air going to nowhere, each carrying 1,600,000 to nowhere, to do nothing? How many hotels in Mombasa are full of useless civil servants going to do useless things? How many hotels in Naivasha are full with people? You know, there's so much money we are wasting and so much money we are stealing. We can offer free education from primary to secondary.
Talk to me though about HELB. You hear plans that William Ruto, the president, wants to abolish it together with other educational funding. He wants to start something else with National Skill and Funding Council. Is there really a problem with HELB? Why is he going after it? Because Babu Owino says, please don't touch our HELB.
There is everything wrong with the education sector. So if you try things piecemeal, each touches the other. I've told you, you touch free secondary education, you affect 100% transition. And you have all these small schools closed. You touch HELB, you get in trouble with university students. You go back to the days of riots. Even the UK tried it, increasing fees. It doesn't work. So you touch health, universities are increasing fees, you know, and even the president alluded to that.
Because now he has a new system. He wants to
people may not even understand what it is. You need a comprehensive approach to education in the country. And not by way of these cheap task forces that become avenues of rewarding people you know.
He had one for CBC.
I've looked at even the task force on education. There are people there, I know they are my friends. But that's not anything it can hardly come up with anything. People there, they don't have ideas about education.
So when it comes to education, what reforms do we need?
You need comprehensive reforms that touch on access, on quality, and so on and so forth. You know,
because
not just piecemeal help. Help is a small thing.
When I ask this question, because for a layman like me, would go and ask, but things seem to be working. Even though some complain about CBC, things seem to be working. Teachers, their salary is not as it's supposed to be, but at least they're going back to school. They are teaching now. They have these agreements. Why do we need reforms now in our education?
The education sector always requires periodic review in what you can call reform. So there's nothing wrong with reforms. Education is very critical. It determines what kind of people you'll be in 100 years from now. What kind of society shall we have? Shall we have a society with values or not? What kind of development will you have achieved? Because education is the one that drives everything, including development and things beyond development. So you need to always continuously review education.
When I was starting this conversation, I said we're looking at, in this 2023 year, what should Ruto really put his eyes on? What should he really focus on so that we can say we've ended the year with a country that is stable? And now we're speaking about education. We talked about GMO, and we talked about what is happening in the country in terms of impunity and everything in between. Now that they're having this conversation, trying to build the country, what should Ruto say? This is what I want this year to mean for my people, the people that elected me, even those that didn't.
You know this. There's only one thing that should be the game changer. To free resources from theft. Free resources from theft. Handle corruption. Theft of public property. Put measures in place so that we have admitted over the years that we lose about 1/3 of our budget to corruption. If you can save even half of that money, which means our budget is about 3 trillion.
Yes, 3 trillion.
If you can, that's a trillion is what we lose, 800 billion to 1 trillion through corruption and wastage. If you can save just half of that, you'll be able to give Kenyans free education, free healthcare. And why am I insisting on free education, free quality education, free quality healthcare? Because the state of the economy, the suffering, the unemployment in the country mean that Kenyans cannot afford health cover. They cannot take care of their loved ones when they become sick. What with the ravaging cancer and all that? With the state of poverty in this country, Kenyans cannot take children to school. So you need to start by giving them free education, free healthcare. Start there.
Yeah.
How do you get the money to finance that? Stop corruption. Then we can talk about other things.
So even
Free education to be followed later by how does it become quality? How do all Kenyans, because even if you make education free, there is no guarantee all children will go to school. Because they could still be hungry.
So even even if you say, even if in his plan of saving, removing subsidy,
Those subsidies will not give you money. Subsidies on fuel and on food cannot give you 100 billion. Why are these people behaving like they don't understand? And David indeed is an economist. All these subsidies Uhuru was giving cannot give you 100 billion.
should Kenyans,
And I'm saying corruption takes 800 billion.
yeah.
Get 500 billion out of that corruption.
Even if he's trying to save money,
Nothing. You
by
cannot,
removing
subsidy will not give you money. Subsidy will give you 70, 80 billion. But corruption will give you 800 billion. Funga your corruption and wastage, you get 500, 600 billion. Give Kenyans free education, give Kenyans free health care. Then now sit down to talk about the quality and access of education.
Are you optimistic?
Sit down and talk about what do we need to do into move instead of curative care, we go into preventive care. We look into something like our FDA, food, drug, whatever in America, that controls, that looks at what Kenyans eat. Because cancer is now a monster. We now go into those areas. But first, let everybody go walk to hospital free, come out treated free, quality medicine, doctors well paid, money you would have saved from corruption. Start with the corruption.
Some of our viewers say that you see the glass always half empty.
No,
you don't
no,
see it
that's
half full.
why.
Are you optimistic in this year, because you're speaking about corruption? We know Ruto's administration and the charges that were there before. Are you optimistic that he can be able to deal with this corruption? Because
No.
that was Martha Karua's agenda.
There are no signs they can deal with corruption. Why? Look at the people you are putting into office. People carrying baggage and luggage of corruption. And you still give them public appointment? What can you convince anybody you are serious about fighting corruption? No. At least pretend. I'm asking the government. At least you can pretend you want to fight corruption. But you get a guy carrying a luggage load full of corruption and you appoint him a minister, appoint him this and the other. It's about sending message. And this must be a message of hope. When the country is hurting and bleeding like this, when millions of young people with education are not employed, when the people watch their young loved ones die because they can't take them to hospital, when people stay with children at home because they can't pay their fees, when people see their children walking naked, you need to give them hope. You do not give hope by appointing thieves to public office, because you are saying mutadu, and that is dangerous to a country which is hurting the way this country is hurting.
For 2023, just deal with corruption and give people.
Don't talk about other stories. Oh, agriculture, well, no. All those things are good. But the bottom line is that elephant in the room that's going to break all the China. However beautiful the China is, will be broken by that elephant. Get that dragon and slay it. Deal with the corruption. Free money from corruption. take it to agriculture. Because even if you do wonders in agriculture with all the beautiful plans, the money there will be eaten by corruption. So deal with the corruption. Free money and spend it to uplift the living standards of the people of this country.
Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been our conversation on the 2023 plan for Ruto. It should be dealing with corruption. Until we do talk again, have yourself a lovely rest of your day. Have a good weekend.